The Metaphysician's Companion.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're here again for our next podcast. Now,
Hey, good afternoon, Graham.
how are you, John?
Pretty good. Ready for another
bout of this game.
excitement and drama.
Excitement and drama around. One of our listeners suggested we talk about time, and you and I have been discussing how can we talk about time from the metaphysical point of view, and we came up with a few thoughts on the matter. So we're just going to go for it today and just see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I have quite a scientific orientation in a lot of the way I think. And the first thing I think of is that time is not a universal constant.
It's a fluid.
Yeah. It's the one that I always point to is that time flows different rate according to whether it's in a gravity field or not. And specifically, you cannot run a GPS system without allowing for the fact that 100 kilometres above the Earth's surface, the time is a little bit faster than it is down here on the Earth's surface. There's a computer, I think it used to be in Colorado Springs in the United States, that keeps everything in check for the GPS. Okay,
so because we also know scientifically that if you enter a black hole, time literally slows down.
Well,
I mean, we're talking about the science side of this so far.
Yeah, that's the gravity again. The gravity's so intense that the rate of time slows.
So time is actually not fixed. It's we see it as being fixed in our physical reality we're in here, but scientifically it's not fixed.
Well, yeah, do we see it as being fixed? Because we're talking about that is when you're doing something interesting.
Yeah,
the time just flies. And if you're sitting there, like I said, waiting for the red light to go green in traffic,
it goes so slowly, and then the guy behind you is honking his horn because it's going so even slower for him.
Yeah, I remember that in a class. What was it? Yeah, 1 second isn't a long time. It is if you're sitting behind someone at a green light.
Yeah. Which is interesting, but as you said, when you're into something interesting, time slows down. Speed it doesn't exist, I suppose, is the right word.
You stop noticing.
Yeah. But the other thing I mentioned is when I was in that non-duality situation, doing that meditation that day, for me, that in that period. There was nothing. That's a hard word. There was just this energy. So for me, time wasn't existing in that period I was in there. For me, consciously. Now this is the difference. Consciously, when I came out of it, time had passed.
Yeah. So in the conscious, in the experience, you were just aware of things, or aware of
where I was. And that was it. And I didn't even know how long it was that I was there until I came out of it. So for me at that time, it was just something. It was a happening that I was in. That's a bit hard to explain, but it was a happening I was in rather. And in that time didn't exist. It just was.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around this one because I think we perceived time as change. There's something like if you think of the picture on a TV screen or what have you, it refreshes at 60 cycles a second. 60 times. It's the next image is a little bit different to the last one. That's how you perceive the movement, and that's how we perceive time, is partly by that noticing change. So when you were in that state, did you experience any idea of change?
No, it just was. And that's the thing I'm saying. I just was.
Yeah. I am.
Well, yeah. But I was there. And that was it. There was nothing else around. And as I said, it wasn't till I came back to consciousness that I'd seen that 15 minutes, for example, had gone, and it seemed like nothing So the difference was in that period, it was just like it was instant. But when I came out of it, 15 minutes had passed.
Yeah.
So I wasn't conscious of time. So well, my argument is that say argument's not the right word, but my thoughts are that time is very subject to one's focus. And if your focus is on something that's esoteric, like I was in, then time changes. And I would also sort of like to say that basically it's my experience from what I've learned that when you pass over, then the time situation is different again. It's not as in the physical world.
Yeah. I get this idea. I've read about this sort of thing, but I take it back to what you were saying about the focus and what I said when I said I am. And the reason I said that was it was a meditational practice I recall reading, and the idea being that a lot of the idea with the meditation, particularly from the Indian sort of viewpoint, is that you reduce the contents of your mind, and you do this by delineating a domain. You might, for example, say, like normal thinking jumps from one thing to another, a chain of thought, and the idea is that you reduce it to one link of that chain. Like you might just start keeping your mind on bridges, for example, and you don't think about anything else. And eventually you work down to I am. And like this is where you keep the mind in this I exist. I'm aware of my own existence. And then the I am, that is to be, and that is in the field of time, but you reduce it down to I. And then the I slips away as you completely still the mind. And the idea, the metaphor is, it's like a pool in a forest clearing, and the mind is like waves and that ripples on the surface caused by the wind. And once the mind is completely calm, you can see reality reflected in it. That's the kind of metaphor for it.
Right.
And it's that focusing of, like let's say, clearing of the mind entirely. And what I hear you talking about is that whatever practice you were engaged in, say, it removed the importance of the physical world. Would that be fair to say?
More than that, it removed not only the importance, but what was happening to me in the physical world.
It's just totally gone, and you were focused.
I was just part of this energy. So it removed all that.
That's what I mean, sort of beyond I am.
Yeah. So you became beyond that. So yeah. But one of the theories that I was given in a channeling was that basically all our existence that we're in at the moment is like in an energy ball. This is really hard to explain. It's in us inside a ball of energy, and everything exists within it. And time in that ball changes all the time, depending on whereabouts you are in that energy ball. There's different levels of energy in it. So it's like there's an outer energy and there's an inner energy, and we're more of the inner energy because we're in the physical form. But outside of that, there's other energies which the time in that changes. It's different. It varies. So as I was talking about, once you pass over, the change of time is there as well.
Yeah, I've read, and actually, one presentation I went to, I heard the same thing. Is that speaking to spirits who are departed, and they say things like time is not the same. When they've asked, certain questions have been asked, and it's not like that. Yeah, it's sort of
Well, example, when I do readings for people using the cards or whatever, when I mentioned this before, the cards just have a energy that comes off, and I basically go with the energy that comes off
Yep.
and the thoughts that come. We've talked about that before. That's a subject we need to talk about later on about
Oh, that was-
symbolism, because we were trying to think what's the thing about
Yeah,
the symbolism
yeah.
and how it affects one. So the energy will come off, and a statement will come into my head, or a picture or a vision of something, and I relate it back to the person opposite me, the
Yeah.
client, we would like to call them, and they would take that as a now. But there is actually with that vision, there was actually no time and energy put on it. The vision didn't contain any time reference, so I'd have to probably later on tackle that as a separate issue, because I had to bring it back into the physical, because I was getting it from the non-physical. I think that's the right word. So that changed the map, so to speak.
Yeah, the one thing that I think of is, like, in the mythology, you always find stories about eternity or some version of it. Like, for example, with the Aboriginal people, they have the concept of the dream time. And dream time is like eternity, and it has nothing to do with time. You know, we have time everlasting. You know, you find this in all sorts of mythology.
Yeah.
And the spirit world, or I'll call it eternity, where it's like everything that happened a very long time ago is still happening now.
Yeah.
That's eternity. You know, it's happened the ancestors created mountains, and they're still doing it. Those same mountains, it's takes it out of it. And when you're talking about reading the tarot, like, I was going, well, I never really noticed it that way myself, but I would see an image, which I'd tell a story about, but it's like they say an archetype, universal archetypes. They don't have a time associated with them. They just are. Difficult to talk about.
Yeah, because it's because we live in this physical world, and basically we're geared by time all the time.
Yeah.
And so trying to step out of that in a conscious way is really hard. And of course, I think as we talked just earlier on about meditation as a way of doing, in a sense, as a way of doing that, because that takes you out of your day-to-day stuff and whatever. So although time passes while you're there, at that time doesn't exist, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
In your mind and in your consciousness. That's what I'm trying to get at. So what I'm trying to get at is your consciousness and your subconsciousness and your outer consciousness, maybe that which you take with you when you leave the planet or leave this physical world, is not affected, is only affected by time while you are here, the time that we live in. If you take that energy and those memories, memories are an energy, you take that energy over to another plane of existence, that time is different.
Well, it makes sense if you think that the fundamental understanding is that we are universal spirits.
Yeah.
In true essence. That's it, isn't it? In metaphysics, I exist as a spirit who is incarnated as to, instantiated.
Spirit. We're spiritual beings that are incarnated into physical.
I'm sort of, what drives this experience forward as a physical being is the eternal spirit, and that by these various techniques, one can take consciousness back to that part of, essential part of self, which is not subject to the laws of time and space, or works in a different way at any rate.
Well, the essence of being, taking the essence of that being transferred into another energy field, which again the time may change. Now, the reason I bring that up is because we know from physics that time alters through various things. Time can be bent, Time can be slowed down. As you said, even from this planet, GPS is there's a computer that keeps everything in order because it's a different time frame out of the off the planet.
Different space and time are the same. All one thing.
Yeah.
Space time they call it.
So you've got that. So in fact, there's actually physical proof, for want of better words, in physics that time is not static. Which again brings me back to the point of view is if that and that's true truism. As below as above, as the Bible says. So you take that consciousness into another conscious area, then that time changes when you're there.
Well, the people throw around the word dimensions a lot without thinking about it, and the dimensions of our everyday life is time and space. Where am I? When? Where will I meet you for lunch? At what time? And this is, time is just another dimension of the way we measure experience. And looking at these, quantum mechanics, and they've got 11 or 12, 21 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And it just means another way of measuring experience. It's really because it is empirical, and I don't know. I have no direct experience of these dimensions because I am incarnated as a three-dimensional being, or a four-dimensional because I must include time. But to move, it's sort of like when you're in an aeroplane and you're looking down on the city, you don't see how tall the buildings are. You've lost perception of that dimension of height.
Which brings us back that time really is a perception.
Yeah,
Would you
we have a perception of
time.
Yeah,
Ah,
like a length.
Yeah.
It's like I said, like width or height or what have you. And we move to a place,
Yeah.
where our perception of time is different. It's like I said, like you lose the perception of depth when you're looking from a vast, great height, or lose the perception of the height of a building if you're looking down on it. And so moving to a place where you're looking down on time, surely it'll look different.
and of course, if quantum physics is ever proved right, and there's some way of proving that 100%, that of course alters everybody's thinking.
Things in science never get proved.
Oh, well, that's right, because they keep on moving, don't they?
It's an explanation.
Yeah.
If the explanation is accurate, that's the best we can go for in science.
Yeah. And then suddenly something happens, like with a lot of Einstein stuff. It's now been shown that it's actually
been shown. Einstein's ideas of sort of the gravity and all that. It's been shown to be way more accurate than the Newtonian mechanics. I keep saying you cannot run a GPS system using Newtonian mechanics.
Well, I think that's probably where we can stop there. I don't know how long we've been going for, but the reality is, I think what we're trying to say is that time is fluid. It's fluid in this physical world, and it's fluid outside of this physical world in space and time. And that, in a sense, is a way of saying if one believes, well, I use the word believe, I hate that word, but believes.
No, I don't know. I don't call it belief. I think the fundamental message is that things are not always what they seem to be.
Yeah. So in a metaphysical point of view, if you're in another dimension instead of being in your physical body, that you're conscious in another dimension, doesn't mean the time is going to be exactly the same as it here. In fact, probably is not at all the same.
Yeah. If you shift your dimensional position along an axis that we don't normally.
Because when you think about it, it's like you're talking about being on a plane looking down the buildings. If your consciousness moves to another dimension and you look back down to the physical life, that physical life will look totally different.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Totally different to what you are experiencing here. It'll take a different what's the word? Different, not viewpoint, but a different
or that
experience. It'll be a different experience for you.
That sort of thing, like when you're drowning or what have you, and the whole life flashes before you.
Oh yes.
Do you is that a real thing? I don't know, but it's saying you see it all at once.
Yeah.
At the same time. Yeah, time.
Time. Yeah, because
see it all at once.
As you can see here from this, it's a very complex, complex discussion. And we love your input into this one, because anything that's can enlighten us more is always, always welcome. So please get in contact with us if you can, especially if you're a scientist. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Into spirituality as well. So you can contact us by leaving a note on Spotify or YouTube. And you can also contact us through our email address, John.
Which is metphyscompanion@gmail.com. That's METPHYS companion@gmail.com.
And we'll leave you there. I'm not sure we're going to top that off with next week, but we'll find something.
Hope to have you with us then.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.